Is it still worth purchasing physical books in 2025? As many of you know, I'm an online content creator. I write PDFs, eBooks, e-courses, all of which have digital downloads. So it may surprise some of you that I'm actually still quite into physical books, sheet music, things like that. So in this video, I'd like to share my thoughts why I think it's at least important to have a small collection of these sorts of things and why it might motivate you more as a musician. Let's get into it. Just before we begin the video, I'd like to tell you about a free beginner jazz guitar course which I have available for anyone that is new to learning jazz guitar. I've put this jazz guitar course together to break down jazz guitar in a coherent and structured way. There are over 25 4K video lessons and a 40-page downloadable PDF to help you get started. Each module comes with downloadable PDFs, chord diagrams, etudes and studies to help you get started learning the wonderful art of jazz. One reason why I think that physical books are still relevant is for research purposes. Quite often, like me, if you're researching kind of defunct brands of gear, such as the videos that I've done about Polytone or Music Man, then information online is great and you can still really use that to great advantage, as I've done in other videos. But sometimes there's a lot of that information that's still kept in books that hasn't been transferred online, or even then someone's actually gone to the effort of writing a book about something which is presented in a way which makes it much more easier to kind of take in, rather than just, you know, having 25 tabs open, going through forums and things like that. For example, right now I'm actually researching PV guitar amps. I'm wanting to make a video about those similar to the ones that I did on Polytone and Music Man, and I've got this book right here which is long out of print called the PV Revolution, and this one here called PV Guitars, which I also think might be out of print. So for that particular video, there's a lot of very helpful information in those books, and they're just generally very interesting to read as well. So I think they still have their purpose when it comes to researching things like older brands that are defunct. And even then, there's some wonderful books about Fender and Gibson, which I really kind of stand by, and I think that they're worth having. So that's one reason, is for researching. Another reason to collect physical books is that you can find wonderful coffee table books like this. This is a wonderful biography of Barney Kessel from Maurice Summerfield, and yeah, you can Google Barney Kessel and you can watch things about him possibly on YouTube, but this is something that's took so much effort and research to put together. And as you can see there from the contents, you get all kinds of benefits from this. You get an extensive biography, a full discography, a photo gallery. Many of those images are not available online, and all kinds of things you know that you wouldn't necessarily find just by Googling a jazz guitar player. So this is a wonderful book which I highly recommend, actually. As you can see, it's just a lovely thing to have to read through, have the full-size pictures and things like that. It's just much more of an experience having something like this, and obviously the motivation and knowledge that you gain from having a coffee table book which has been published by an actual company and literally written by somebody who knew Barney Kessel is a wonderful thing to have in your collection. When it comes to sheet music, you can often find some charity shop bargains. Regular viewers of this channel will know that I'm a big fan of going out and finding good CDs or good sheet music books or just anything of use from charity shops, and over the years you don't always find useful things in there, but quite a lot of them have a nice selection of sheet music and things like that. So I recently picked up this book of violin studies, which was only, I'll hold that to the camera there, £2 from Yorkshire Cancer Research. And this is a fantastic book in wonderful condition, something that I have used and practiced from. And you know, if you can get, it would cost more than that just to print it in 2025. So if you can get something like that and you're going to stick to it, it can be just a nice little resource to have. Another one that I've also found is this. This is kind of falling apart really, but I think this was only £1 or £2 as well. But this is a wonderful kind of score of guitar reading that has some pieces by Fernando Sorin as well, and it's just useful if you're practicing things like sheet music and sight reading, especially just to have a stack of music that you kind of rotate between. Some people like having physical copies of music because I think it just motivates them to stick to it. It's on the stand, it's in front of you, it's usually where you practice, and you can't escape it. If it's a file on a computer, then there's more steps to opening the file. So as you can see here, there's some music, it's on a stand, it's open, I have to walk past it. Sometimes it does make you, at least mentally, more incentivized to carry on learning it, and you can have a couple of books that you're working on the go, which is what I tend to like to do here. So I'll just kind of get a few books, and it's rare that I work through every single piece within a book most of the time, but they're just great references. You know, I might do a little bit for a couple of weeks from both of these books and then rotate them. So that is one reason why I think people like sheet music on stands. It does have that kind of motivational kind of pull, whereas it's not always the case on a computer. Another example of a wonderful coffee table book is one called Masters of Jazz Guitar by Charles Alexander. I was pleasantly surprised to find that Charles was actually a email subscriber after purchasing this book, and he was generous enough to send me one of his CDs, which I highly recommend. Of course, this book I paid for with my own money, and it's worth every penny because this is a really wonderful reference book for learning about jazz guitar and jazz guitar players, because Charles actually has different sections of jazz guitar, different movements and things like that, and there are different authors on each chapters, all of which know quite a lot about what they're writing about. This is a wonderful book, especially if you feel like you know most of the mainstream jazz guitar players and you're wanting to find out some of the lesser known players. Then there's sections about UK jazz guitar players, sections about European jazz guitar players, players who are not massively well known. So having something like this in a collection is a vital resource if you're really interested in jazz guitar. Those are my thoughts on having a physical collection of music related books. What do you think about books and sheet music? Do you still use them? I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below. I must also preference that I'm not only using physical books, I actually do have quite an extensive digital collection of books too. There are, for example, a couple of books that are very hard to get hold of here in the UK. One such example is the excellent Billy Bean biography written by Dr. Seth Green, which is much easier to obtain digitally than what it is physically. So I'm a big fan of also doing that, and obviously whenever you're travelling or if you're reading in different places, it's much easier to carry a Kindle around than a coffee table book. So thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then please don't forget to click subscribe and like this video.